Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to simplify negative square roots. We're going to start off with the fact that we know that I squared is -1. We learned that in class already. And so if you take the square root of I squared, you get square root of I squared, square root of -1. So I is the square root of -1. So I is the square root of -1. That's going to help us to simplify other square roots. For example, let's say I want to simplify the square root of -4. All I need to do is to break this into two parts. One part is -1, the other one is 4. We're using this property that square root of A times the square root of B is same thing as the square root of A times B. Okay, that's the property we are using. Okay, so I can break -4 into -1 and then 4. So what I know from this new fact that we know, this is our new fact, that I is -1, I is the square root of -1, then I can replace this as I times the square root of 4 is 2, and so 2 times I is 2I. All right, so now I can do more, like for example, square root of, let's do a little more, square root of -25, for example, will just be square root of -1 times square root of 25. So this is I times 20, square root of 25 is 5. So I times 5, which is 5I. Okay, so as you can see, we can continue to do more of this kind of numbers. These numbers are called perfect squares, but with a negative with them. So it's basically just knowing that is, you're gonna end up with an imaginary number. And so if I want to do, for example, square root of -36, if I do the same process, I will get 6I. And square root of -49, I will get 7I, and so on and so forth. Now it gets a little bit more interesting if this number in the this radicand is not a perfect square. So let's see an example of that. For example, square root of -5, for example, will be hard to, it's hard to break. We cannot break it up. So what we need to do is to just do square root of -1 and then square root of 5, which we can now write as I root 5. So if you cannot break this number down, then you just it's just I, the square root of that number. So this is I square root of 5. So let's do some more of those, like square root of -23. So will just be I root 23. All right. So now we're going to go to the last category in which the number can be broken. So we have the square root of -12, for example. So here we have to break it into two, into 3 actually. So it will be square root of -1, square root of 4, and square root of 3. So now this part we know as I, and this part we know as 2, and this part root 3 cannot be broken down anymore. We keep it like that. This is going to be 2I times 2 is 2I root 3. So that's how you deal with the ones with factors that are the ones that have factors of perfect square factors. Okay, let's do more example of that. For example, the square root of -50, for example. Square root of -50. So we can do that as square root of -1, square root of 25, because 25 times 2 is 50, square root of 2. So that will be I and 5 and root 2. So that will be 5I root 2. So we can do some bigger number, like for example, Let's say we do 54, or no, maybe 72, for example. Square root of negative 72. So we know it's going to be I, square root of negative 1, square root of 36, and square root of 2. So that'll be I, and that will be 6, and that's root 2. So it will be 6I root 2. So there you have it. You can do square root of any number by any negative number by breaking it up into the imaginary part and then the real, the imaginary factor and the real factors. And there you have it.